Listen to me, this might be the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. There comes a moment in life when you realize begging for love only makes you lose yourself. When you finally understand that the more you chase, the more you get ignored. And that's where your power begins. Not in holding on, but in letting go. See, the truth is, people don't value what's always available. They value what they can lose. So if he walked away, disrespected you, or treated you like you were optional, don't fight for a spot you were already meant to own. Step back, go silent. Remove your presence so completely that it feels like you never existed in his world. Because sometimes the only way to be remembered is to become unreachable. And when you master that, that's when the tables turn. That's when the regret begins, still is power. Let me tell you something real, and I want you to hear me clearly. Silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Most people panic when things go quiet. They feel the urge to explain, to defend, to send one more message just to be understood. But that right there is where you lose your power. The moment you feel like you have to convince someone to see your worth, you've already placed yourself beneath them. Silence flips that dynamic. Silence puts you back in control. Because when you stop talking, you stop giving them access to your thoughts, your feelings, your energy. And access is a privilege, not a right. You see, people get comfortable when they know they can reach you anytime. They take their time responding, they play games, they test your patience, because deep down they believe you're not going anywhere. But the moment you go silent, the moment you remove that easy access, everything changes. Now they don't know what you're thinking. Now they don't know where they stand. Now they have to sit in the discomfort of not having you available. And that uncertainty, that's what starts to bother them. Silence forces reflection. When you're always there, always talking, always explaining, you're giving them noise. And noise is easy to ignore, but silence is loud. Silence echoes in the mind. It creates questions. Why hasn't she called? Why hasn't she texted? Did she move on? And the more those questions grow, the more your presence becomes valuable in your absence. That's the power most people underestimate. They think love is about constant communication, constant reassurance, constant effort. But respect, real respect is built when someone realizes they can lose you. And silence is the first signal that you're no longer willing to be taken for granted. Now listen, silence doesn't mean you're hurting and pretending not to care. That's not power, that's suppression. Real silence comes from strength. It comes from a place where you've decided that your peace matters more than being understood. You're not ignoring them to get a reaction. You're choosing yourself. You're choosing dignity over desperation. And that's a completely different energy. Because when your silence is genuine, when it's not forced or fake, people can feel it. They can sense that something has shifted. You're no longer reacting. You're no longer available on demand. You've created distance, and in that distance, your value becomes clearer. And here's something you need to understand. When you go silent, don't break it out of emotion. Don't check your phone every 5 minutes hoping they'll reach out. Don't rehearse what you'll say when they come back. That's not silence, that's waiting. And waiting is still giving them control. True silence is detachment. It's when you're no longer emotionally dependent on their response. It's when your day doesn't revolve around whether they text you or not. You're living your life, focusing on yourself, growing, evolving, and your silence becomes a byproduct of your self-respect, not a tactic to win them back. Because let me tell you something else. When you master silence, you stop chasing closure. You stop needing answers. You stop asking why. And that's where your real freedom begins. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Not everyone deserves access to your healing process. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away without a word and let your absence speak for you. Stop performing for his attention. Let me be real with you. Some of you are exhausted, and it's not because life is hard. It's because you've been putting on a performance for someone who stopped watching a long time ago. You're posting just to be seen, dressing just to be noticed, acting unbothered while secretly hoping he reacts. And the truth is, That kind of energy drains you because it's not coming from confidence. It's coming from the need for validation. When you start shaping your behavior around whether he's paying attention or not, you've already given him control over your mood, your actions, and your sense of worth. That's not power, that's dependency. And the moment you recognize that, you have to make a decision. Are you living your life or are you performing in his? See, performing keeps you stuck. It keeps you checking your phone, analyzing views, wondering why he didn't respond the way you expected. It turns every move into a strategy instead of a genuine expression of who you are. And here's the harsh truth. If a man needs to be convinced to notice you, he's already decided not to value you. You cannot perform your way into someone's respect. You cannot act your way into being chosen. Real attention, real interest, real love. It doesn't require a show. It flows naturally. It shows up consistently. So the more you try to create moments to catch his eye, the more you lower your own value in the process. Now understand this, when you stop performing, something powerful happens. You reclaim your authenticity. You stop filtering yourself through the question, will this make him notice me? And start asking, does this align with who I truly am? That shift changes everything. Because now your actions are no longer about external approval. They're about internal alignment. You wear what you like because you like it. You go where you want because it fulfills you. You post when you feel like expressing yourself, not when you're trying to send a message. And that kind of energy, it's magnetic, not because you're trying to attract attention, but because you're no longer chasing it. And let's talk about something deeper. When you perform for someone's attention, you slowly lose your identity. You become a version of yourself that's edited, calculated, and incomplete. You start hiding parts of you that might not get the reaction you want and exaggerating parts that you think will. Over time, you don't even recognize who you are anymore because everything you do is tied to how it will be perceived. That's dangerous because your worth was never meant to be measured by someone else's response. Your worth is static. It's inherent. It doesn't increase when someone notices you, and it doesn't decrease when they don't. Here's what you need to do instead. Pull your energy back. Stop giving free access to your time, your thoughts, your emotions. Stop trying to be seen by someone who chose to overlook you, because the moment you stop performing, you create space for something real. You create space for people who don't need convincing, who don't need a show, who see you without effort. And more importantly, you create space to reconnect with yourself, the version of you that doesn't need approval to feel valuable. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about playing hard to get or pretending you don't care. This is about genuinely not needing to prove anything. There's a difference. When you're pretending, you're still performing. But when you truly let go of that need for attention, your energy shifts in a way that can't be faked. You become calmer, more grounded, more secure. You're no longer reacting to every little thing because your focus is no longer on him. It's on you, so stop putting on a show for someone who isn't even clapping. Stop exhausting yourself trying to earn a reaction. Because the right energy doesn't need to be chased, and the right person doesn't need to be convinced. The moment you stop performing is the moment you start living, and that's where your real power begins. Heal loudly, not publicly. Let me tell you something that most people won't say out loud. Healing is not a performance, and it was never meant to be one. In today's world, everybody wants to show they're okay. They want to post the quotes, upload the smiling pictures, drop subtle messages, all to prove they've moved on. But let's be honest, that's not healing, that's broadcasting. That's trying to convince the world, and maybe even yourself, that you're fine when deep down you're still hurting. Real healing doesn't need an audience. Real healing happens in the quiet moments when nobody's watching, when you're forced to sit with your thoughts, face your emotions, and rebuild yourself from the inside out. See, when you try to heal publicly, you tie your progress to reactions. You start measuring your growth based on who viewed your story, who liked your post, or whether he noticed. And the moment your healing depends on someone else's attention, it stops being healing and becomes another form of attachment. You're still connected, just in a different way. You're still seeking validation, just dressed up as moving on. But healing loudly is something entirely different. Healing loudly means you are actively doing the work. Even if nobody sees it, it means you are choosing growth over comfort, truth over illusion, and peace over attention. Healing loudly is waking up and deciding that today you're going to be better than yesterday, even if it hurts. It's allowing yourself to feel the pain instead of numbing it. It's admitting that you were hurt, that you gave your heart, and that it didn't turn out the way you hoped. And instead of running from that truth, you face it, you learn from it, you grow through it. That's loud, that's powerful. Not because people can see it, but because it transforms you at your core. And when something changes at your core, it reflects in every part of your life, your energy, your confidence, your standards. Now understand this. When you heal privately, you protect your energy. Not everybody deserves access to your journey. Not everybody deserves to know your struggles, your breakthroughs, your process. Some people will misunderstand it, some will judge it, and some will even use it against you. That's why your healing has to be sacred. It has to belong to you. Because when you protect it, you give it the space to grow without interference. You're not distracted by opinions. You're not influenced by expectations. You're focused solely on becoming whole again. And let's talk about something real. Healing is not pretty. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. There are days when you feel strong and days when you feel like you're back at the beginning. There are moments when you miss what you had, even if it wasn't good for you. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human. But healing loudly means you don't let those moments define you. You don't run back to what broke you just because it feels familiar. You stay committed to your growth, even when it's hard, even when nobody is cheering you on. When you truly heal, you don't feel the need to prove anything. You don't need to show him what he lost. You don't need to make anyone jealous because your focus is no longer on them, it's on you. And that's where the real transformation happens. You start to rediscover who you are without the pain, without the attachment, without the need for approval. You become stronger, wiser, more self-aware. You raise your standards, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. And here's the thing, when you heal the right way, it shows without you saying a word. People can feel the difference. They can see it in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you respond to situations. You're no longer reacting from wounds, you're responding from strength. You're no longer seeking validation, you're operating from confidence. And that kind of energy, it can't be faked, and it definitely can't be ignored. So stop trying to prove that you're okay. Stop putting your healing on display. Take that energy and pour it into yourself. Do the work in silence, grow in private, and let your transformation speak for itself. Because when you heal loudly and privately at the same time, you don't just move on. You level up into a version of yourself that no longer settles for what once broke you. Upgrade your life, not your drama. Let me tell you something straight. Drama will keep you busy, but it will never move you forward. A lot of people confuse being emotionally active with actually making progress. Arguing, explaining, proving a point, going back and forth, it feels like you're doing something, but in reality, you're just stuck in a cycle that drains your energy and keeps you exactly where you are. If you really want to change your life, you have to make a decision to stop feeding the drama and start feeding your growth. Because every minute you spend caught up in confusion is a minute you're not investing in your evolution. Now understand this. Upgrading your life is not about showing off. It's about showing up for yourself in a way you never did before. It's about redirecting your focus. Instead of asking why he did what he did, you start asking what you need to do to become better, stronger, and more fulfilled. Instead of replaying old conversations in your head, you start creating new opportunities for yourself. You shift your energy from emotional chaos to intentional progress. And that shift That's where everything begins to change. See, drama thrives on attention. It needs your time, your thoughts, your reactions. The more you engage with it, the bigger it becomes. But the moment you pull your energy away from it, it starts to fade. That's why upgrading your life requires discipline. It requires you to resist the urge to respond, to argue, to explain yourself one more time. Because let's be honest, if someone didn't understand your value before, another explanation isn't going to change that. Your growth will. Your absence from the chaos will. Your decision to move forward without looking back will. When you start upgrading your life, your priorities change. You begin to invest in things that actually add value to you. Your mindset becomes sharper. Your goals become clearer and your standards become higher. You start taking care of your body not for validation, but because you respect yourself. You start focusing on your finances, your career, your purpose, because you understand that your future deserves your attention more than your past ever did. And the more you build yourself up, the less appealing drama becomes. It starts to feel heavy, unnecessary, and beneath the level you're trying to reach. And let's talk about something important. When you level up, not everyone is going to come with you. Some people are used to the old version of you, the one who tolerated nonsense, the one who engaged in back and forth, the one who stayed even when things weren't right. When you change, when you grow, when you start choosing peace over chaos, it disrupts the dynamic. And not everybody will like that, but that's okay. Growth is not about keeping everyone comfortable. It's about becoming who you're meant to be. Here's what you need to remember. Your life is a reflection of what you tolerate. If you keep entertaining drama, you'll keep experiencing it. But if you raise your standards, if you decide that your time and energy are too valuable to be wasted on confusion, everything shifts. You start attracting better situations, better opportunities, better people, not because you're chasing them, but because you've aligned yourself with a higher level of living. And don't get it twisted, upgrading your life doesn't mean everything become easy overnight. It takes effort. It takes consistency. It takes days where you don't feel like doing the work, but you do it anyway because you're committed to your growth. That's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. Anybody can react, anybody can argue, anybody can stay in drama, but it takes strength to walk away, to focus on yourself, and to build something better. So instead of trying to fix what's broken, build something new. Instead of wasting energy on people who bring chaos into your life, invest in habits and goals that bring you peace and progress. Because at the end of the day, the biggest statement you can make is not what you say, it's how you live. And when your life starts to upgrade, when your energy shifts, when your focus becomes clear, you won't need to explain anything to anyone. Your growth will speak for you, and your peace will prove that you chose right. Detox emotionally, not just physically. Let me tell you something that most people don't realize until it's too late. You can walk away from someone physically and still be completely attached to them emotionally. You can stop talking, stop seeing them, even block their number, and yet they're still living in your mind rent-free. You're still thinking about what they're doing, who they're with, whether they miss you, whether they'll come back. And as long as that emotional connection is still there, you're not free, you're just distant. And there's a big difference between distance and detachment. See, physical separation is easy. Anybody can leave a place, delete a contact, or avoid a person. But emotional detachment, that takes real work. That takes discipline. That takes you being honest with yourself about what you're still holding on to. Because most of the time, you're not attached to the person. You're attached to the idea of them, the memories, the potential, the way things felt in the beginning, the version of them you hoped they would become. And that's what keeps pulling you back, even when you know the reality wasn't good for you. Emotional detachment starts when you stop romanticizing what hurt you, when you stop making excuses for behavior that didn't meet your standard. When you stop telling yourself stories that keep you connected to something that already ended, you have to see things for what they really were, not what you wanted them to be. And that kind of clarity can be uncomfortable because it forces you to let go of illusions. But that's where your freedom begins. Because the moment you see the truth clearly, it becomes easier to release the attachment. Now understand this. Detachment is not about becoming cold or shutting down your emotions. It's about gaining control over them. It's about not letting your feelings dictate your actions anymore. Just because you miss someone doesn't mean you need to reach out. Just because you think about them doesn't mean you need to go back. Emotions are temporary, but the decisions you make based on them can have lasting consequences. So emotional detachment is learning how to feel without reacting, how to acknowledge your emotions without being controlled by them. And let's talk about something deeper. When you're emotionally attached, your self-worth becomes tied to their behavior. If they give you attention, you feel good. If they pull away, you feel anxious. If they come back, you feel hopeful. That's an emotional roller coaster, and it's exhausting. But when you detach, you take your power back. Your mood is no longer dependent on them. Your happiness is no longer connected to their presence. You become stable within yourself, and that kind of stability is powerful because it doesn't get shaken by someone else's inconsistency. Detachment also means letting go of the need for closure. A lot of people stay emotionally connected because they're waiting for answers, waiting for an explanation, waiting for that one conversation that will make everything make sense. But the truth is, not everyone is going to give you closure. Not everyone is going to explain themselves in a way that satisfies you. And if you keep waiting for that, you'll stay stuck. Real closure comes from within. It comes from you deciding that you've seen enough, you've felt enough, and you're ready to move forward without needing anything else from them. Here's another truth. When you're emotionally detached, you stop taking things personally. You understand that someone's inability to value you has more to do with them than it does with you. You stop internalizing their actions as a reflection of your worth. And that shift is everything because it allows you to move on without carrying unnecessary pain or self-doubt. You realize that you can care about someone and still choose yourself at the same time. And don't get it twisted. Emotional detachment doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. There will be moments when old feelings resurface, when memories hit you, when you feel the urge to reconnect. But the difference now is that you're aware. You don't act on impulse. You remind yourself why you chose to let go. You stay grounded in your decision even when it's difficult. That's growth. That's strength. So don't just walk away physically because that's only half the work. Do the internal work. Release the emotional ties. Take your energy back. Because when you're truly detached, you don't just move on, elevate. You step into a version of yourself that is no longer controlled by the past, no longer defined by someone else's choices, and no longer available for anything that doesn't align with your peace. Become the woman he can access anymore. Let me tell you something powerful, and I need you to really understand this. There is a difference between being unavailable and being inaccessible. Anybody can ignore a call, leave a message on read, or block someone out of anger. That's reaction. That's temporary. But becoming a woman he can't access anymore, that's transformation. That's when your entire mindset, your standards, your energy, and your boundaries have shifted so deeply that even if he tried to come back, he wouldn't recognize how to reach you anymore. Not because you're hiding, but because you've outgrown the version of yourself that once allowed him in. See, access is not just about communication, it's about emotional entry. It's about whether someone can still trigger you, affect you, pull you back into old patterns. And as long as someone can still do that, they still have access to you. That's why this level requires more than distance. It requires growth. It requires you to become so aligned with your self-worth that anything below your standards automatically gets rejected, without you even having to think twice about it. When you become inaccessible, You're no longer operating from your past wounds. You're no longer reacting from hurt, from loneliness, or from the need to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself, and that decision changes everything. Because now you're not looking for validation. You're not seeking attention. You're not hoping someone will finally treat you right. You expect it. And if it's not there, you walk away without hesitation. That's a different level of power. That's not attitude, that's self-respect. And let's talk about growth, real growth. Becoming someone he can't access anymore means you've taken the lessons from that experience and actually applied them. You've raised your standards. You've become more aware of what you deserve and what you will no longer tolerate. You've learned to recognize red flags early instead of ignoring them. You've built boundaries that protect your peace instead of sacrificing it. And most importantly, you've developed a relationship with yourself that no longer depends on someone else's presence to feel complete. Here's the thing. When you truly evolve, your energy changes. You don't entertain the same conversations. You don't respond to the same behavior. You don't feel the need to explain yourself to people who don't understand you. There's a calmness about you, a confidence that comes from knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. And that kind of energy is not easily accessible. It requires effort, consistency, and alignment to even be in your space. And if someone can't meet that level, they simply don't get access. Now understand this. Becoming inaccessible is not about punishing someone. It's not about making them feel bad or getting revenge. It's about protecting the version of yourself that you've worked so hard to become. Because once you've healed, once you've grown, once you've elevated your mindset, the last thing you want to do is go back to something that disrupts your peace. You value your time more. You value your energy more. You value your mental and emotional well-being more. And that means not everyone gets a second chance to enter your life. And yes, there will come a moment when he tries to come back. Maybe with apologies, maybe with excuses, maybe acting like he's changed. But when you've truly become inaccessible, you don't get pulled in by words. You look at actions, you look at consistency. And even then, you don't lower your standards just because someone finally realizes your worth. Because your worth was never dependent on their realization. It was always there, you just see it clearly now. The most powerful part of this transformation is that you don't need to announce it. You don't need to tell anyone you've changed. It shows in how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself. People can feel it. They can see that you're not the same person anymore. And for the ones who once had easy access to you, that shift can be shocking because they remember the old version of you, the one who stayed, the one who tolerated, the one who gave chances. But that version doesn't exist anymore. So you don't just close the door, you become the kind of woman that door doesn't even lead to anymore. You evolve beyond the reach of what once held you back. You grow into someone who is grounded, confident, and selective about who gets to be part of her life. And in that space, you don't just gain respect from others, you gain a deeper respect for yourself. And that's the kind of power nobody can take away from you. Closing. Listen, at the end of the day, this was never about him. It was always about you, about your growth, your standards, your peace. When you stop chasing, stop performing, stop explaining, and start choosing yourself, everything changes. You don't need revenge, you don't need validation, and you definitely don't need someone to finally see your worth. Because once you see it, that's enough. And if he comes back, let him. Just make sure he meets a version of you that no longer settles, no longer waits, and no longer breaks herself to be loved. That's your power.